Good morning, everyone. I request everyone, please put your cameras on. Good morning, ma'am Rita. I request everyone, please put your cameras on. Good morning, ma'am Rita. How are you? I request you, please unmute yourself. I request everyone, please rename your Zoom account. Good morning, Hanja. Please put your cameras on. Good morning, ma'am Rita. Please unmute your mic. Ma'am Rita, please unmute your mic. You're not audible, ma'am. Hui Jung, please put your cameras on. I request Maram, please put your cameras on. Good morning, ma'am Cecilia.
Hi, good morning.
I request you, please put your cameras on. Good morning, ma'am Cecilia. How are you?
Hi, sorry. Good morning. I'm okay. Thank you.
We are so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Could you please let us know what's the weather in your city?
Actually, it's still evening, so I think it's not raining. I don't see the sky because it's completely black. So we are on the Greenwich the time, so it's 6:30.
Okay, thank you for the information, ma'am. Shall we start the conference? I request everyone, please put your cameras on. Okay, so we have great honor to see you here at the conference. So everyone has joined the conference. Let's start with our today's conference. Now I would like to share. Okay, so welcome to the International Online Live International Conference, Eurasia Research. So today we are great honor to have these distinguished participants from various parts of the world. So that are Portugal, Philippines, United States, Brazil, China, Saudi Arabia, and India. We are broadcasting this conference on Facebook Live on multiple pages of Eurasia Research. The links for the live sessions are shared in the chat box. So these are the participants for today's conference. I would like to welcome Ma'am Cecilia from Portugal, Ma'am Marizin from Philippines, Professor Nancy Steinhardt from USA, Sir Dr. Hilano from Brazil, Lijun Chan from China, Shangshan from China, Rita from Central Africa, Huizang from China, Hanjiang from China, and Malam Harati from Saudi Arabia. So, please allow me a moment to introduce Eurasia Research in a nutshell. So, with over more than 1 million satisfied members and associates spread across the globe, Eurasia Research is a scholarly association who have been working for nearly a decade. Eurasia Research has organized several successful international conferences, workshops, and training programs at various reputed institutions and grand venues. Eurasia has been tirelessly working for research world and have not stopped their endeavors during COVID era and have presented research community with online platform which was safe and convenient method to continue their passion. These are the objectives. We are an international community of researchers, practitioners, students, educationists who aim to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals, encourage intellectual development, and to create opportunities for networking and collaboration. These objectives are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, research publications, and academic awards and scholarships. We provide scholarship to deserving candidates to promote students, research scholars to participate in the international conference. Young researcher scholarship is provided in the form of a full registration fee waiver. We have vast experience of publishing papers for more than 7 years. Our associated journals publish original papers, review papers, conceptual framework, and analytical and simulation models, case studies, empirical research, technical notes, and book reviews. We cater to more than 30 plus themes in the area of teaching and education and have registered ISSN and have followed renowned indexing, Google Scholar, Crosscheck, Authenticate, Crossref, the Keepers Registry, Scribe, Portico, wrote the Director of Open Access Scholarly Resources, OAI PMH Registered Data Provider PKB Index. We will soon apply for Scopus too. We have wide network of 100 plus internationally acclaimed keynotes across the globe who shares their knowledge and guidance with our participants with open hands. We have a large number of committee members and advisors who support us and guide us through their expert opinions and decision-making capabilities. We could not have thought of reaching there without them. We also encourage our participants to connect with more than 15K plus followers on our social media platforms where they can share their research and interest. I request everyone to please join our Facebook group and be a part of the discussions by researchers and academicians. We also have several collaborations with universities, colleges, institutes to better serve all the interested and like-minded intellectuals. With great enthusiasm and pride, we would like to announce our latest project, which is the Terra Fellow Program in Education. The program offers an opportunity to learn the key concepts and latest trends in the teaching industry from the academic stalwarts. We would like to share some of our past participant experience with you. Thank you for your patience and valuable time moving forward with the conference. Today, I'm your host for the conference. My name is Vartika Jain. So let's welcome our STRA President, Dr. Yudmila Grisen, full professor, Information System Department, Simon Kurtner, and Kharkiv National University of Economics, Kharkiv, Ukraine. Let's see what she wants to share with us.
Hello to everybody. My name is Lyudmila Grisen, and I'm happy to greet all the participants of the Science and Technical Research Association. It's a great honor for me to take up the position of the President of Association. A few words about myself. I earned master degree in applied mathematics. Also, I earned PhD and postdoctoral degree in pedagogical science. Currently, I'm working as a full professor of Information System Department, Simon Kuznets National University of Economics, Kharkiv City, Ukraine. During the last 3 years, I have been actively working within the association. I was invited as a keynote speaker at different conferences where I shared the results of my research in the sphere of information technologies in education. Science and Technical Research Association aims to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals to encourage intellectual development, to create opportunities for networking and collaboration. These aims are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, and etc. So I would be happy if the current and new coming members of association and all of us together took the opportunity to go on their investigations, to share their research and the results of their research on the platform of the association to make our world a better place to live. So see you later in our forthcoming event. Follow up in the sites and in Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Yudmila, for your kind words. Now let's come to the conference. Now let's welcome our next eminent speaker, Lukasz Jodaila from Poland. Let's see what he wants to share with us.
My name is Łukasz Jodaila. I graduated with a master's degree in computer science from the West Pomeranian Institute of Technology in Poland. I work as a software engineer and researcher with corporate research teams. My work has mainly involved multimedia systems, digital signage systems, some aircraft-related systems, and before that I also worked with universities on a series of papers about people with disabilities and their interaction with computer devices. And here at the conference, at the last conference, I was presenting the results of my team's work. And in short, it was all about remote process management and window mapping in Linux-based systems.
Okay, good.
above all, it's effective. Not only is it safer, but also it's more time and cost effective, right? And it was very great, very lovely to see students on that conference, because 15 years ago or even 10 years ago, when I was a student myself, it was a struggle to get proper financing, to get the funds from universities to pay for accommodation and transportation, right? And now it can be all ruled out and it's eliminated. So yeah, it was great to see that. Yes. On one hand, physical conferences gives you the opportunity to have a side talk, sometimes to network more unofficially. But on the other hand, online conferences are a great opportunity to speak up, to also present your research if you have no experience, or if you have little experience on that. I know a lot of very talented people who are hesitant to share their results due to different reasons. And the fact that you can pre-record your presentation before the online presentation, that's very helpful. And my video, my presentation was actually my third take, mostly due to the fact that I'm not English speaker. English isn't my first language. So yes, in my opinion, it's worth at least trying. And I know there are many things going on now in the world, but in that aspect, what a beautiful time to live in. Before the conference, I've got all the answers to my questions that I've asked via the email. So yes, I was very happy, and I want to thank you for all the work you put into organizing these events.
I am Dr. Samantha. I would introduce myself as a mathematician, as an artist. So I had been a lecture mathematician.
Thank you, Lucas Chudala, for your kind words. Now let's come to the conference. Now let's welcome our next eminent speaker, Dr. Mrs. W.G. Samanthi Konak Singhe, Academic Director, Statistical Consultant, and Institute of Mathematics and Management from Sri Lanka. Now let's see what she wants to share with us.
I am Dr. Samanthi Konak. I would introduce myself as a mathematician, as an artist. So I had been a lecturer for about 25 years and a statistical consultant for more than 2 decades. And at the moment, I'm the statistical consultant and academic director of the Institute of Mathematics and Management, Sri Lanka. If I talk about my contact with the Eurasia Research, my first keynote speech was in Singapore. It's a physical contact. Then my last one is in Australia, Melbourne, 2020, just before the border closes. It is in 2020 March, as I remember. Yeah, so just before the border closes. So after that, I mean, we had no other option. So I really appreciate the Eurasia Research and other organizations taking this initiative to conduct online sessions. Otherwise, we don't know when the borders will be open and we will be able to move together. So like earlier, so until then, we don't need to take a break. So online sessions are really good motivation for the researchers to be together and continue their work. But as I said earlier, we have to move whatever happens. Still, physical conferences are more interesting. The main reason is like we meet people, we greet people, and that kind of interaction. We are humans, no? So social animal need human interaction. That part is missing, but we have to adapt to the something is better than nothing philosophy. Eurasia Research, as I said, over the last few years, I have been with you. I have addressed many of your forums as a keynote speaker. So one thing I really like is whatever happens in the world, you are not stopping your work. That means you are determined to do something. For some people, when something happens, like especially the government universities, okay, now is a pandemic, so we can't do anything. So that is not your motivation. So I must thank Professor Rola Charles and your team for not stopping your work. Whatever happens, you are going on. And that Melbourne conference is a very good example. about 40 or 50 participants have registered, but that time also some travel restrictions were there.
Yeah.
Only 5 or 6 could attend the conference. But your your agent was there and he conducted the session from morning to evening without any problem. The number of participants was not a matter. So you promised to do something, because as an experienced person with these conferences all over the world, I know some private organizations, they get the money, they get the papers. Some, of course, they do publications, but they do not conduct the conferences, saying that they don't have sufficient participants. That means they are trying to cut down the cost for meals and the hotel, that whole booking and things. But Eurasia Research is not like that. I said the very good example, 4 or 5 participants, still you conducted the session. That was in Victoria University Conference Center, Melbourne City. So it's a costly place, but you conducted it. That is your spirit. So, I mean, you keep your word. Okay. See you another day. Bye.
Bye. Hope to see you in our upcoming conferences. Thank you.
Of course. Definitely, I'll be with you.
Thank you, Ma'am Samanthi, for your kind words. We are so glad to have you as our keynote speaker. Now let's come to the conference. So our today's conference schedule is session 1 is for keynote talk, section 2 is for team activity and photo session, and session 3 is for keynote talk. Now, I request everyone rename your Zoom account with your full name in English. This will help us to record your presence. You may ask your questions related to the presentation in the chat section while the presentations are going on. All the certificates, receipts, and proceedings will be sent to the participants within a week on their mail IDs. The proceedings will include all the full papers, abstracts accepted for the conference. Moving ahead with the publication process. The publication process starts once the registration process is complete. The author needs to send their papers, consent forms, and reviewer details on the email ID convener@eurasiaresearch.info. The review reports will be sent to the author once the review process is over. The final stage of publication starts after receiving the revised paper from the authors. Please note that the publication process takes around 50 days after the conference date if all the editorial guidelines are followed within the given deadline. Now, I would like to welcome our next keynote speaker, Dr. Cecilia R.C. Calado, Institute of Engineering of Lisbon from Portugal. And her topic is biomarkers discovery based on FTIR spectroscopy for diseases, prognosis, and diagnosis. Dr. Cecilia Calado has a PhD and an MSc in biotechnology and degree in biochemistry. She is professor at the Lisbon High Engineering Institute, where coordinates the BSc and MSc in the biomedical engineering and the R&D lab in medical bioengineering. She presents a broad experience in R&D in development of platforms to discover drugs, diseases, biomarkers, and bioprocess monitoring. Let's see what she wants to share with us.
Hi, good morning. So thank you very much for the nice invitation. So thanks to the organizing committee. So I'm going to start to share my screen. So I'm from Lisbon, and so you are all welcome to visit us. We are a School of Engineering where I'm coordinating the biomedical engineer courses. So, and today I'm going to speak about work that we are conducting on my laboratory on biomarkers discovery for a precision medicine. So what is the precision medicine? Precision medicine means to a more effective medicine considering the difference between each individual. So the personalized concept of medicine and precision medicine is very similar and considers that each person has a very specific way of respond, for instance, to therapeutic, has totally different mechanisms of disease and so on. For instance, When considering breast cancer, we have total different types of breast cancer. So we need to understand the different types to adjust the therapy considering the type. For instance, if we are expressing hormonal receptors, the best therapy is going to be a hormonal therapy, and so on and so on. So, and these specific characteristics of each cancer, we could call it a biomarker. So for conducting a more efficient therapy, we need to discover these biomarkers. What is different between these different kind of looks like similar diseases but are not. So these biomarkers, so we characterize the different disease types and so on based on these biomarkers. We could use it to conduct a more precise diagnostic and consequently to define the best therapy, but also, for instance, to predict the outcome of the disease, so to conduct prognosis. And the best mode to discover these biomarkers is considering the whole of the system. So when considering the system as a whole, so we are considering all the genes, all the RNAs, all the proteins, or all the metabolites, we say that we are considering the omics science. So we are talking about genomics, transcriptomics, and so on. And during the last 20 years, technology has evolved a lot. So we can do lots of analytical characterization of these systems in a much cheaper and rapid mode. For instance, the first human genome that was sequenced and finished, actually was finished a few years ago, but almost 90% finished in the beginning of the millennium. It took lots of years, lots of monies around, the predictive value was around 3 billion to obtain the first human genome. Now we managed to do a more or less sensitive analysis of a genome, of a human genome, in few days for a few $1,000. So it's much cheaper, much rapid. So this evolution means that most of the new first-in-class drugs, so drugs that are completely innovative in relation to the other drugs already in the market, most of them are already discovered based on this new technology. So this is already a reality. But considering the omics science, we could speak about genes, but genes means that the potential of the cell is not really what the cell is doing. What the cell is doing in a particular system is producing proteins and that are associated to the metabolism. So as we tend from the genotype to the phenotype, we could say that we're more near what the cell is really doing at this particular moment. So actually, I'm focused on at the end of the arrow, that is metabolites. So considering the whole molecular signature of the system, considering metabolites, but it's not easy to acquire this metabolome. We have different bottlenecks. One of them, the technique. What is the best technique to conduct? Actually, each technique are saying a particular set of metabolites. So actually, we would need to use many different techniques. Some of them more adjustable than the other ones, but even so, we are speaking about very laborious, very complex techniques and very expensive techniques. So, and these techniques also means that we are dealing with lots of information. And if you are associating this to a huge variability that happens in the human population, means at the end that is very difficult to discover biomarkers. So an alternative technique, the one that I'm working with, is with Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy. Actually, we are looking for the system as a whole, and we are looking for vibrations of functional groups and molecules. But this spectra that represents the molecular signature of the molecule at that defined period of time on a very specific condition is very sensitive to acquire the metabolic state of the system. So is a very nice and alternative technique. So we have been applied this technique to several systems, for instance, to quantitatively predict several metabolites, for instance, during the expansion of human stem cells. In this particular study, we evaluated 2 metabolites only, but we could do it lots of metabolites at once. For instance, in these systems, actually this one is a very simple system, like Escherichia coli bacteria producing a plasmid for vaccination. But it's a very good example how the technique could be using in a robust mode, because in this system we apply different types of E. coli in different types of conditions, and we predict a huge set of variables from a unique spectrum acquired in 1-2 minutes in a simple mode and very economic. Besides that information, and from the spectrum, we were also able to acquire lots of other metabolic information, like apparent transcription levels, the turnover metabolic profile of the cell, and so on and so on. So this is a very sensitive technique. A good example of the versatility of this technique is that we are able to develop a platform for drug discovery, actually work from antibiotics discovery. So, and I want to know if from a particular spectra, we were able to predict the mode that cell was being killed, so predicting the mechanism of death. So use different kinds of antibiotics, so we're killing from different modes of action, and actually we were able to predict the mechanism of death of that cell, and even if the target of this antibiotic was different or not in the same class of antibiotics. So this high sensitivity of the technique is very, very appealing to discover biomarkers in the human population. One of the first examples that we applied for the human population is this one. Usually we are submitted to very genotoxic compounds as an hospital, for instance, in professions working with chemotherapeutic drugs that are also carcinogenic. And usually this monitoring is based on conventional modes that require to take blood from the human volunteer or patient that we are monitoring, grow, expand cells or maintain the cells in culture during 1 week, and doing after very different analyses, this one that we are trying to evaluate chromosomal abnormalities in the immune cells on the blood. And this is very laborious, so to check if we have chromosomal abnormality. So in parallel to this analysis, we made another one that using this technique, this new one, and from a simple drop of blood, we needed to want to know if we're able to see subdivide this population, the one that were in risk and the other one that were not in risk. And just looking for the spectrum, we start to see a difference in very specific wave numbers. But applying more machine learning techniques as support vector machines analyzing the spectra, we were able to develop very nice prediction models of the genotoxicity associated to these particular populations with very nice prediction values. So with the advantage that it's very rapid to acquire this information. So this is a very nice example how the technique could be explored. A second example that we did is there are many diseases that the characterizations of the cells, of the immune cells that are being activated is critical. For instance, in the transplant medicine, the mechanism of the immune reaction against transplanted organs is critical, and it's also critical to know the mechanisms, if it's a B or a T immune cell activation, and because in function of that, the therapeutics are different. And so on this particular work, we want to know if it were possible to discriminate these two types of immune cells, and we were able to discriminate it. This is already seen again on the spectra. Actually, this is the second derivative spectra. But again, applying machine learning models as the previous one, we're able to develop very good prediction models that we are able to discriminate it if we're talking about P or T cells, and more if these cells are being activated. So and predictions around 100% specificity and sensitivity, that is huge. The last type of examples before passing through a more complex analysis, we want to also from the blood, from the serum of transplanted patients, to predict if these transplanted patients were in risk of starting a rejection process of the allograft kidney that they added. So, and this is one of the results. So just showing that the prediction model just predict if the rejections were already starting was usual. We were able to predict the people that were already starting the rejection process and ones that apparently was not starting by conventional modes, but probably were going to be started on the future. That is a highly sensitive mode. And this is highly important, but particularly in this kind of patients, usually this is based on biopsy to the kidney, to the transplanted organ. That is highly invasive, and we are basing these prediction models on blood, so less invasive than using the biopsy analysis. So the last example is considering the tissue analysis. So before of that, all my examples were based on cells or on blood, serum, and so on. But sometimes on cancer, for instance, we want to analyze the tissue. So for the tissue, it's important to see the heterogeneity, and we never know if you are focused in the region associated with cancer or not. So this is particularly difficult is a particularly difficult analysis. So for this case, we use a total different technique based on a microscopic analysis, but with a very special detector that actually contains an array of detectors. Actually, it was 4,096 spectrums acquired, distributed in a very defined area. So we are speaking about imaging processing. The information is huge, so we need to apply different kind of processing techniques to simplify the information. Just an example, here we have the microscope observation of our sample without coloration, and you start to see the morphological observation. And these images are reconstructions from the infrared spectrum. For instance, example is integrating areas from particular from the specific region of the spectrum. We're able to reconstruct almost the image at what you were observing here. Unfortunately, if you are looking for average of the spectrum for the normal of the derivative spectrum, we know that in average they are different, but the standard deviations from the adenocarcinomas, that is cancer, and the tissue that contains cancer and could be abnormal, like hyperplasia, that was our case in prostate cancer, and hyperplasia from prostate, they are superimposed. That so is not very good prediction. So we consider the image, this hyperspectra. Hyperspectra has lots of spectra, and micro because we are using microscope imaging. So we evaluate pre-processing the spectra. We evaluate reduction the dimension of the spectra to try to obtain more quick computer analysis. And we evaluate the non-supervised and supervised methods. Of course, the non-supervised didn't work because the variability associated is huge. But even so, we are able from the supervised classification to obtain accuracy in relation to the conventional classification of cancer, a huge one, 96%. So it was a fantastic result. I could say this kind of technique that is one of the most information-rich and concise way to represent whole omics, not only the metabolomics, but whole omics. So this is a very nice technique. So in conclusion, we could say, so the technique has very appealing characteristics, has rapid, economic, high throughput, and high sensitive. It captures the metabolic fingerprint of the technique and its associated metabolic state. And we are able to predict some biochemical information. And most important is all this information can be used for biomarkers discovery. So I would like to thank all my colleagues and students, and of course, the grants associated to the Portuguese institution that's Fundação para a Ciência. So thank you very much. So thank you again for the organizing committee. So if you have some questions, please be my guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Cecilia, for your wonderful presentation. We are so great to honor. Okay, so now, everyone, if you have any questions, please put on the chat box. Okay, so let's move on to the next. So our next keynote speaker is Marison B. Contreras, PI, MBA, MSME, Pinamukin Proper, Bantiga City, Philippines, and her topic is Lean System for Educational Institutions. Engineer Marison B. Contreras is a registered professional industrial engineer of the Mechanical Engineering Department of the College of Engineering of the University of Bantiga City, Philippines. She is a full-time associate professor at the College of Engineering and the Graduate School of the University of Bantigas, where she finished her requirements in Doctor of Business Administration at Pamantasan Angie Langsod Angie Manila, Philippines, where she obtained her MS degree in Management Engineering. Prior to her present designation, she was assigned as the chairperson of Industrial Engineering at the University of Bantigas for 8 years. She is an ISO auditor, ELIQUA accreditor, researcher, advisor, and statistician. Different professional organizations, local and international, reorganized her scholarly works and vested her with the following awards: Best Presenter at the International Conference on Innovative Research in Engineering and Technology, Outstanding Paper Award recipient at the World Conference in Business and Management 2018. Best Presenter Award at 2019, Second International Conference on Business, Economics, Law, Language and Psychology. Best Paper Award at 5th Hernado B. Paris, Search for the Best Faculty Research Paper. Best Quantitative Paper Award at the 13th Network of Collaboration Educational Institutions Research Forum and Selected Paper Award recipient at the World Conference in Business and Management 2019. She served as session chair at WCBM 2018 and 2019. She also served as keynote speaker at the International Conference for Science and Technology Research at Ramada Grandview Hotel, North Point, Hong Kong. International Conference for Science and Technology Research at 9 Free Premier Hotel, Madang, Seoul, South Korea. 7th ICSTRA Bali International Conference on Science and Technology Research and 5th ICSTRA Rome International Conference on Science and Technology Research. She has published her research papers in Calendar Journal, Global Business and Finance Review 2018, a Scopus Index journal. Now let's see what she wants to share with us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Engineer Marizen B. Contreras from the University of Batangas, Philippines. As your keynote speaker for today, the topic that I'm going to impart is all about Lean Six Sigma for educational systems. So why did I choose this topic? Just because, as we all know, everything in science and technology starts with education. Continuous improvement in educational systems will lead us to progressive learning process from basic to higher education and so on. But before everything else, let us first define education. So it is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. Education can take place in formal or informal setting. So our focus will be in the formal education. In our country, formal education starts from basic education, that's K to 12, to higher education or the tertiary education, which is provided by public and private schools, colleges, universities, technical and vocational institutions in the country. Educational systems are designed around a set of values or ideals that govern all educational choices in that system. So those educational choices include the type of curriculum, organizational models, design of the physical learning spaces, student-teacher interactions, methods of assessment, class size, educational activities, and more. The objective of educational systems are, of course, to build a brighter future for our students as professionals and as citizens and provide them with the skills to obtain well-paying and valued careers. But just like other organizations, educational institutions are faced by so many challenges that according to Timothy Winders of Purdue Polytechnic, those are increased student success and retention, increased reporting demands, increased competition for funding, pressure to lower cost. So in order to face those challenges, our educational systems need to adopt Lean Six Sigma that will help us improve our performance, lower our costs, and improve customer satisfaction. So what is Lean? According to Henry Ford, we will not put into our establishment anything that is useless. So the core idea is to maximize customer value while minimizing waste. Simply, it means creating more value for customers with fewer resources. So it is a system of techniques and activities that is focused on the elimination of all non-value adding activities and waste from business. So currently, almost 80 to 85% of our activities are non-value adding. So what are these value-added activities, enabling value-added activities, non-value added activities? The value-added activities is any action that is taken or action taken that increases the benefit of a good or service for our customers. For our enabling value-added activity, these are activities that do not add value to a customer but must be performed to allow value-adding activities later on. For the non-value added activity, these are activities that does not increase the worth of what is delivered to our customer. Examples of non-value-added activities or wastes in educational systems are, for defects, those are redoing reports, making changes over and over to documents, etc. For the overproduction, ordering forms, etc. that go out of date and must be thrown away. For transportation, the distance that paper has to travel to get approvals, signatures, and also this can include emails. For waiting for approvals or the emails in our inboxes to be opened and replied. For motion, the required routings that items take to get to the final customer, required forms that enter data repeatedly. For processing, reports and other communications or emails that are sent to multiple receivers that never read or have anything to do with the intent of the document. And of course, the biggest waste in lean education is the underutilization of all the elements in the education process, namely the teachers, the students, and the administrative staff. So the results of poor educational system are students who failed in exams due to unprogrammed education, students who graduate from educational institutions with an intention to find a good job and do not have lifelong learning ability, giving lessons that will not be used by the students in their professional lives and which will not contribute to the concept of value, planning mistakes in curricula and other mistakes in training process. So the good news is every company has a tremendous opportunity to improve using lean techniques, the techniques that will enable us to deliver higher quality outputs at significantly lower cost. The basic principles of lean education are, first, identify your customers and what they value. So the customer or the customers in education system are the parents, the students, employees, of course, the teachers. So it defines they define the value of the service. The next is map the value stream. So the value stream mapping shows the workflow process steps for a service. The value stream mapping helps to identify and eliminate the non-value added activities. This eventually helps us to reduce the process delays and thereby improves the quality of the service. The next is to create flow to the customer. So create flow to the customer by ensuring continuous flow system in rendering service. Flow will optimize the process to maximize process efficiency. The next is to establish pool based on customer demand. Establish pool approach by meeting system beat time. The beat time is the rate at which a service must be ready to meet the customer demand. Then, of course, seek continuous improvement. Finally, we must put consistent efforts to improve the existing business processes to cater ever-changing customer needs. This ensures elimination of waste and defects, free products and quality service to our customers. So, lean concepts can certainly be applied to teaching practices within schools, but it is important also to think about all of the processes that surround what happens in the classroom. Schools rely on a complex web of processes, including, of course, accounting, emergency preparedness, human resources, facility maintenance, budgeting, food service, technology, professional development, certification, fundraising, testing, parent community relations, communications, office administration, transportation, and of course, reporting. Okay? So what is Six Sigma? According to Jack Welch, Six Sigma is a quality program that, when all is said and done, improves your customer experience, lowers your costs, and builds better leaders. So Six Sigma is a data-driven problem-solving methodology. The focus is on the process variation and emphasis is given to customer satisfaction. Continuous process improvement with low defects is the goal of this method. And this is our Six Sigma methodology. Okay? Okay. Next is integrating Lean and Six Sigma. So for Lean, the goal is to improve process performance through waste elimination and cycle time reduction, while in Six Sigma, the goal is to improve process performance in relation to what is critical to the customer. For Lean, the focus is bias for action. For Six Sigma, the focus is bias for analysis. For Lean, the method is implement Lean tools such as Kaizen events, value stream mapping, 5S, TPM, and etc. For Six Sigma, the method is it uses the MAIC method and quality tools. For Lean, the deployment is implicit infrastructure, while in Six Sigma, the deployment is explicit infrastructure. Lean is after speed, flow, and cost, while Six Sigma is after the customer satisfaction. So what is Lean Six Sigma? It leverages the best problem-solving methods to help organizations achieve their missions and satisfy customers. It is a fact-based, data-driven philosophy of improvement that values defect prevention over defect detection. Lean focuses on waste elimination, supports Six Sigma quality, while Six Sigma quality supports speed. So factors to be considered in the Lean Six Sigma for educational systems, first are the barriers. So what are those? Defect, silos, expectation of quick fixes, the terminologies, leadership, and culture. For critical failure factors, those are lack of visionary leadership, lack of process ownership, lack of training, poor project selection, cultural changes, academic freedom. For the readiness factors, leadership and vision, management commitment and vision, linkage to strategic plan, customer focus, and the right people. For the critical success factors, the leadership, the project selection, the training, the accountability, the right technology, the right marketing, communication, culture, and organizational readiness. Of course, for the key performance indicators, the university ranking, the student completion rate, the student satisfaction, the student attendance, the quality of the university's research, facilities satisfaction, application processing time, university housing. Here are some of the universities that use Lean Six Sigma. In Racine County, Wisconsin, the Racine Unified School District has applied Lean Six Sigma techniques to redefine its enrollment process in its middle school. Singapore Management University created significant change in their institution by training staff on Lean Six Sigma methodologies. University of Miami, Ohio has been called one of the most efficient schools in the country because of their work with Lean and Six Sigma principles, from big campus-wide initiatives to small and granular improvements, like, for example, digitizing the fingerprinting processes the campus police use. So in conclusion, Lean Six Sigma drives customer satisfaction and bottom-line results by reducing variation, waste, and cycle time, while promoting the use of work standardization and flow, thereby creating a competitive advantage. It applies anywhere variation and waste exist, and every employee should be involved. All industries are founded on processes, and all processes can improve, even if that improvement is only slight. But even so, any improvement, especially in education, is a step in the right direction. It improves the quality of existing processes and makes us better managers. According to Henry Ford, coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. And that's all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ma'am Alison, for your wonderful presentation. We are so glad to have you. Now let's come to the next. Now let's welcome the next keynote speaker, Professor Nancy Steinhardt, Professor of East Asian Art and Curator of Chinese Art, University of Pennsylvania, US, and her topic is Monumentality in Chinese Architecture. Nancy Steinhardt is a professor of East Asian art and curator of Chinese art at the University of Pennsylvania. She has broad research interest in the art and architecture of China and China's border regions, and ongoing field projects in China, Korea, Japan, and Mongolia. Steinhardt is author, editor, or translator of 15 books and more than 100 scholarly articles. Her most recent books are The Borders of Chinese Architecture and the prize-winning Chinese Architecture, A History. In 2019, she has received the distinguished teacher of art history from the College Art. Now let's see what she wants to share.
Good morning, everyone.
You have the hotspot.
Period. The man whom I just showed you on the right, Chinese architectural monumentality probably calls to mind these two powerful images, the poster pictures of China and the ones through which the fundamental principles of construction and planning are articulated. Principles such as enclosure in courtyards, axiality, symmetry, importance of gates, that is especially in the Forbidden City. In both cases, you are looking at visual monumentality. I am going to show you today that monumentality in Chinese construction is not related to size. Monumentality is defined in China's primary, singular, and unique architectural treatise, Yingzao Fa, which translates as building standards. It was compiled under a man named Li Jie, who lived from 1035 to 1110. He was an official in the Directorate of Construction, and he issued this by order of the Emperor Huizong, whose court codified other aspects of Chinese civilization, such as the treatise that you see on the right. It codified his imperial painting collection. Building Standards is 34 chapters, and the last 6 of them are illustrated. The first 2, you're looking at the table of contents here, are a glossary of 48 of the most important Chinese architectural terms. The third term is this one, so 1, 2, 3. The third term is this one, dian, which can be translated or defined as a large hall. But its explanation, so here dian, and then the explanation, coming from sources of classical Chinese writings, its explanation drawn from these writings tells us always about the module and nothing about the size. For instance, we are told that a ritual structure called Mingtang was 9 chur across the front and 7 chur in depth. Chur is the length of a floor mat. The Record of Rituals says that the Hall of the Son of Heaven is 9 chur, the marquise 7 chur, the officials 5 chur, and the scholar officials 3 chur. And so I have been right here, and for the first definition, I was over here. I was just now, as I said, right here. The Mencius tells us that the halls of the type of building known as Tang of the legendary emperors Yao and Shun were only 3 chur, but the absolute length of the chur is never stated, for it changes with time. What we have before us is a ranked system, as well as the clear evidence of a module. The Building Standards follows a long list of writings about Chinese architecture. Arya, which you see on the left, we can translate this title as Approaching Elegance. Chinese characters are right here. It was compiled in the last decades of the first millennium BCE, and it defines approximately 80 architectural terms. More than 40 of them are shown in this building section, named here and then labeled. Many of them are also shown, and their definitions are drawn from this text in the Building Standards. This text, Rules of Construction and Repair, here's the Chinese name, Yingshanling, dates 713 to 741, states that the interior of an eminent hall or an important hall, a hall of the dian type that I just showed you, should have a caisson ceiling, sometimes called a lantern ceiling, sometimes called a cupola ceiling. What you're seeing here is the oldest surviving lantern ceiling in wood in China. There are earlier examples from around the year 0, the one here probably from the very early centuries CE. But again, one relies on the text to tell us what should be in an important building, no dimensions. Now you are about to look at 2 of the largest halls that survive from China. This is one of them. It is elevated 4 meters. It is approached by a 32.42 by 18.48 platform that you see right here. The hall itself, 53.75 by 29 meters. That's 176.3 by 95 feet. This is only China's second largest building, a mere 48.2 meters or 160 meters across the front by 25.13 in depth, elevated on a 3-meter platform with base dimensions 55.8 by 25.91 meters. The approach platform 35 by 15 meters. As a point of comparison, the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the one that you see here now, the 4th version, is smaller, but even when it was constructed in the 15th century and was 1.5 times its current size, 64 meters across the front by 36 meters, and the marble podium on which it stands, 8.13 meters high. So the two buildings that I showed you just a moment ago, and now we look at them and their details, are actually just about as large, but they date to the 11th century, the time of the building standards. The building standards tells us, among its many important dictums, concerning all rules in wooden construction, the module side, and here is the module, is the ideal proportions of 3:2, or 15:10 is how it's shown here. And then often there is a subsidiary module. This is what is going to link into another piece of timber. The modules derive from right here, the cross section of a bracket arm. Neither of the buildings that I just showed you has the modular proportions to be an eminent or monumental hall. And this is in spite of their size. You have the names and the dates here. Daxiongbao is a name for an important Buddhist hall in a monastery setting. These two buildings are eminent halls, and this one dates to 857, and this one dates to 984, and it is possible to have 2 roofs as well as a surrounding porch. This is actually considered a mezzanine layer, but the interior is open as if 1 story. This building, which is much more complicated, is not a diantong. Its pieces do not have the perfect proportional ratio. Here, instead, you are looking at bracket sets with a ratio of 25.5 to 17. In other words, very close to perfection, but not quite. The bracket sets here at the Guanyin Pavilion, if you take them apart and you look at and you measure the cross section here of a bracket arm, are 27 to 18 centimeters. The bracket sets here are, as I said, close, 25.5 to 17. But not perfect. This building, built over a 50-year period beginning in the year 1038, is the purest diantong, or monumental hall, that I can show you from the 11th century, perfect according to the building standards, and it is imperial. There are other criteria that one looks for in assessing that these 3 buildings are perfect monumental halls. One of them is 2 rings of columns, an outer and an inner. The outer, the inner, you see it here. You see it here even in a gate. Buildings that are not of the highest rank or monumental, according to the building standards, have but a single exterior set of pillars, and then those pillars are what support the outside of the building. There are, in fact, 18 variations on the theme of what is an eminent hall, and these are all articulated in the building standards. So these 2 enormous buildings that you see here are not monumental halls, but they also are not buildings of the next rank, what are called in Chinese tingtang, but which can be translated as hall. Both of them are imperial, as were the 3 buildings that I showed you a moment ago that I said these are eminent halls and built by imperial construction. The 2 buildings that you see here can be called, I would suggest, hybrids. They possess features that define them as, in part, eminent halls, but in part, buildings that are less eminent. One defining feature of eminence is that a building must have a bracket set of higher than 5th rank. Here you are looking at a page from the building standards, the most eminent bracket set, 8th rank, 7th rank, 6th rank, 5th rank. Those two halls contain in places 5th rank bracket sets. Second, the interior and the exterior features have to be separated by at least 2 rafter lengths. And so length between rafters, here, in fact, this is correctly according to eminent construction. Pillars of the exterior should be shorter than pillars of the interior. And this is a feature that is not of Diantong status. So how did this happen? How is it that imperial construction, promulgated at the court and built by craftsmen whom we know had the building standards, ends up not to be of structural eminence or monumentality? In other words, the most significant kind of hall. The buildings that I just showed you were built in North China under a dynasty called Liao. Those in South China were built. The other 3 that I showed you include one built by this dynasty, one, however, built by this dynasty, and then one built before then, the previous dynasty, Tang. This one, in other words, was built in South China. These 2, North China by Liao. I'm now looking at interior decoration, paintings, inside 2 tombs of the Liao dynasty. This is the tomb of an emperor. This is his reign date. And both of them are in the same prefecture, Chifeng Prefecture of Eastern Inner Mongolia. Although what you see here is painted, you are looking at a bracket set with only 1 level of arm and 3 rises above it. Here, and I can show you this unfortunately only in line drawing, 2 levels and brackets arms that fan out perpendicular, parallel to the building plane as you see here, but also perpendicular and also at 90-degree angles. It is certain that the person who patronized this tomb, or I should say who was in charge of building it, knew the building standards. This is a page from the building standards. This is an explanation of a page from the building standards, and they explain the gradations of color and patterns on color. This bracket set is so simple, it actually is only 4th rank. And so how is it that these bracket sets are higher rank and do not belong to an emperor? The bracketing that you see on the left comes from the tomb of someone who is a member of the consort clan. The Liao is a dynasty in which there's an imperial family. The wives come from the consort clan. A woman of the imperial family is married to a husband from the consort clan. Entering the afterlife, whether known to the rulers or not, the consort clan would be entering with identifiably higher status. Did the emperors know this? We don't know. But the building standards were known, they were used, and they were used precisely as you see here. So that when an emperor builds an enormous hall in the Liao dynasty, the fact that certain kinds of bracket sets are chosen and larger, more complicated bracket sets could work has to be intentional. This is also a building built by the Liao dynasty, also in Chifeng County of Inner Mongolia. The prefecture is Qingzhou. It is enormous. And when I show you a detail, the bracket sets are in part, but not exclusively. These are what a Diantong or most eminent structure should have. These are not. This man, you see his name was Chunming Da, measured all 4 of the buildings of the Liao dynasty that we have been discussing today. He did this sometime after the year 1938. He was trained exclusively in China. He, as I said, measured each of these buildings, all of them Liao buildings, and he published either long articles or the most important monograph on each one. One of the studies was co-published by his 2 teachers, Liang Sicheng, perhaps a name known to you, Liao Dunjun, perhaps a name not as well known. Liang is working in North China. Liao Dunjun is working in South China in and around Nanjing. During the war with Japan, late 1930s, they came together in southwestern China. That was when this man received training. There is no question that they knew the building standards, and there is no question because they both wrote extremely important books about the building standards. During this 12-year period, The man whom I just showed you on the right, Liang Sicheng, was one of the 3 chief architects and an important selection designer in the ultimate design for the National Central Museum in the city of Nanjing. It stands today. Liang chose these 2 buildings for his models. Liang knew well that they did not follow the building standards. As I mentioned to you, he was the teacher of Chen Mingda, who physically went to them and measured them. Liang had done some measurement of one of them in the 1930s, and he also taught the building standards as a course for all his years teaching at Tsinghua University. He knew that these 2 buildings from the Song Dynasty, from farther south in China, and yes, Nanjing is in the south, so his choice was not based on regional desires. These 2 buildings from the 11th century that follow the building standards were not selected. Liang once wrote that when he looked at this building, he felt like he was walking into a painting. He chose, in other words, somber and large size for civic architecture, not something that could ever be called elegant or delicate. And he chose sheer size, but not monumentality according to the building standards. As a final point, I would like to say that this understanding not only of the monument, but of the module is inherent in all imperial Chinese construction through the end of imperial times into the early 20th century. The Hall of Supreme Harmony, the most important building at the Forbidden City, is in every respect modular. Every piece has been measured. It's so carefully modular. Sometimes it can be considered almost the building pieces can almost be considered repetitive because all of them, for instance, are made of straight pieces. There aren't even any curves. Why is it then that one feels breathless and as if he has experienced monumentality at the Forbidden City? I would suggest that when one goes to the Forbidden City, he goes upstairs, he goes over a threshold, he walks inside, he goes over that threshold again and goes down and continues straight, upstairs, over a threshold, straight, over and down a threshold and down. And he has started at the farthest southern point. There used to be different kind of architecture, of course, in Tiananmen Square in imperial times. And by the time he's gone only 2 kilometers, approximately 2 kilometers, he is experientially feeling monumentality. But this is, in this case, because of the module, not exclusively because of the pieces that module dictates. And so it is important to know that the layout of the Forbidden City itself, in which this experiential monumentality works, is indeed modular. Each of the rectangles that you see here is a 5:9 proportion, so that this distance is twice this distance. And the 3 great halls have equidistant here and here, equidistant here and here, and that, for instance, the width of Beijing in the 15th century compared to the east-west width of the Forbidden City. So this width compared to this width was just under a 9-to-1 ratio. 9 is a number that is symbolic of the Chinese emperor. This kind of monumentality through the modular expression of it, persists all through the city of Beijing or through its parts in imperial times. Monumentality, in other words, in China is achieved by the module, and it is achieved by the written word. When sheer size was necessitated, a builder knew how to achieve it, but the builder in that instance would often break apart from the building standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Nancy, for your wonderful presentation. We are so glad to have you. Now let's come to the next. Now let's welcome our next keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Helena Nogueira, Professor at Farias Brito University and Superintendent of Research and Strategy in Public Security, Ceará, Brazil. And his topic is Science and Technology in Public Security. The professor has distinguished academic experience with postdoctoral degrees from the King's College London and doctorate from the University of Liverpool in England. In the field of business administration, he stands out for being the first Brazilian to be the world director of the forensic police of the International Criminal Police Organization, managing 190 countries at the headquarters in Lyon, France. It is worth mentioning that he was a criminal expert of the federal police in the area of combating cybercrimes and computer crimes for more than 20 years, and chief of the technical scientific sector of the federal police. He was also data protection officer of the Institute of Science and High Technology. He is currently the Superintendent of Research and Public Security Strategy of the Government of the State of Ceará, member of the Interpol Global Knowledge Hub, titular counselor of the State Council of Public Security and Social Defense, titular counselor of the State Council of the Education of Security, consultant to the Commission of Law Information Technology and Innovation of the OABRJ, and honorary member of the Sierra Academy of Law. In the international academic field, he was professor of the disciplines of combating cybercrimes, forensic cybernetics, and strategic technology management for the master's and doctorate courses at the University of Liverpool in England. In Brazil, he was a professor at the Federal University of Ceará, State University of Ceará, FURJ, RSPUC, National Academy of the Federal Police, among others. He is currently a professor at the Farias Brito University Center, at the Faculty of Advanced Technology, at the Graduate Institute, and at the Superior School of Magistrate of Ceará. Authors of several books such as Global Crisis Management, Software Engineering, Digital and Cyber Law, Cybersecurity Fundamentals. Now, let's see what he wants to share with us.
Science to prevent. Hello, I will be the key speaker today. I will talking about science and technology applied to public security. This is my short biography, knowing a little bit more about the speaker, myself. As academic degree, I have postdoctorate at King's College London, doctorate at University of Liverpool, both in United Kingdom, and master and MBA in Brazil. As academic experience, I'm professor at Eurasia Research University, High Technology College, at Superior College of Magistracy in Brazil, and former honorary lecturer at University of Liverpool. Professional experience, superintendent of research and strategy in public security in Ceará, state of Ceará, Brazil. I was former world director at Police Forensic at Interpol, in Interpol headquarters in France, and former head of scientific police unit at Brazilian Federal Police, and former police officer in criminal forensic, also in Brazil. Concluding this short biography, let's go to the main point of our talking today. How to use science in public security? This is the question. I will prove that it's possible to use science to prevent crimes and combat violence. But before, I need to talk about scientific evidence. Definition: scientific evidence is the set of elements used to support or refute a hypothesis or theory according to the scientific method. Another thing to learn is scientific evidence is repeatable by other scientists in locations other than where it was originally collected. It's very important, this concept of scientific evidence, because it's the base to use science in public security. Continue about scientific evidence. I will talk about examples. So, scientific evidence may vary by field of study and research. For us, in public security, we use mathematics, statistics, descriptive, inferential, spatial. We use also computer science, for example, artificial intelligence, big data, software engineering, geoprocessing, is used for georeferencing image and maps, and sociology. Sometimes you need to know about profile, victim and criminal profiles. So it's interesting that the evidence you have elements to go in a correct direction to combat the violence in any state or country. Another concept very important for us is the main point of our talk today. Is the evidence-based public security. Once I talked about evidence, scientific evidence before, now I need to give this explanation about the definition. What is evidence-based public security? It consists of the use of scientific evidence and scientific methods and technologies applied in the formulation of public security policies, guidelines, models, and strategies to prevent violence and reduce crimes. So this definition is very important for us because here you can see that you have science inside the process, inside the work done by police officers, for example. The objective of EBPS, evidence-based public security, is prevent violence, reduce crime, facilitate decision-making, effective and efficient management, and increase social legitimacy. The relevance of evidence-based public security. The first thing is innovation, because with evidence-based public security, you can have innovation with criminal indicators, static and dynamic business intelligence panels. You can use socioeconomic criminal maps. You can use criminal models, geospatial studies, automatized crime fighting technologies. All these things are aspects that can be used in public security, giving more innovation in the work of police officers or any operator in public security. The next slide, you have another interesting point concerning to the relevance of the BPS. Another thing is because you can do monitoring and evaluation through criminal indicators and model, hotspot analysis. I'll talk a little bit more about hotspots, and geospatial study. For example, you can have some indicators that any country can have. For example, intentional, lethal, violent crimes, including, for example, homicide, feminicide, bodily harm followed by death, and robbery followed by death. This group of intentional, lethal, violent crime can be measured, can be monitored and evaluated. So it's very important because the science can be used to this also. Another thing, you can have violent crimes against property, another kind of indicators, sexual crimes, seizures of narcotics, seizures of firearms. All of these examples are ways to monitor and evaluate the work of policies and public security organizations. Now, the relevance of BPS is applicability, obtained and interpreted according to the qualitative and quantitative scientific methods. You have also repetition by other public security agencies and police force in location other than where it was originally carried out. This is why it's replicable. And also have possibility to implement in other cities, states, or countries with similar challenge. So replicability is another point of relevance in our context in public security. Sustainability. Sustainability, as those points, relevant points in BPS, concerning, it means sustainability in our context, in our security policy context. Sustainability means rational use of human, financial, and material resource for each type of crime based on the days and time of the week with the highest incidence of each criminal event. Another point concerning to sustainability is strange public security policy based on scientific studies of criminal data, avoiding subjectivism or guessing. Now you have science, no guess anymore if you use evidence-based public security. Another point concerning to sustainability is actions focused on criminal spots, also called as hotspots or heat maps for each type of crime. It's very interesting because the majority of crimes is concerned in a specific area of your location, in a specific area of your space. So you can use science, data, information to produce criminal spot, hotspot. I will show this in a few minutes. So it's very interesting, this question, to use hotspots to give sustainability of your rationality, of your decisions. Equity means that we will use the BPS in a constant data collection system, ensure a constant flow of reliable information, formulation of strategies, and transparency and accountability, arise the sense of security society. So this is why evidence-based public security promotes equity. Another point is answer the second question. The first question was, how can we use science inside the public security? I showed some concepts and some fundamentals and definition. And now it's important how to use the technologies. Use the science and at the same time technology in the context of public security. So the first thing to know is that all sources of data collection are in the automatized system. For example, computer system, database, knowledge base, and big data. The data is there. The data is, you can find the data in the systems, automatized system. So you need to use this system with all data to produce more information. For example, you can use this data from this computerized, automatized system to produce, for example, criminal statistics. In criminal statistics, for example, you can produce technology concept static panel. For example, here in this slide, you can see some criminal indicators where the user, a police officer, or a citizen using this site as example, are using the site of our superintendency here in Brazil. For example, you can use intentional lethal violent crime as an indicator. If you click in this indicator, you can see all data concerning to this. I will show you in a few minutes what kind of information you can obtain clicking this indicator. But at this moment, I'd like to show you the main indicators, criminal indicators that we use here in Brazil. For example, intentional lethal violent crimes against property, theft, sale of narcotics, sexual crimes, sale of firearms, domestic violence. There's some indicator that you need to monitor and evaluate all the time. This is the kind of information you can obtain when you click, for example, this first example here, a person, a police officer or a citizen that have access to our sites is possible to see, for example, the evolution of this kind of crime, for example, homicides, month by month. You can see all the year of 2021. So you can see the evaluation, the graph about this. The graph also concerned to the day of the week that we have more or less kind of this crime. And you have also here you have the graph, a graph concerned to the day of the week. We have more incidents concerned to this crime. Here you have the evaluation of month by month. And here you have the main hours where the crimes occurs. The same sense, for example, for other crime, you can use data and technology through static panel concerning, for example, another example, I'll give you only two examples here today. For example, violent crime against properties, including robberies without death. Because if you have death, this crime will be included in the other category that I presented before. So here you have the graph concerning month by month, 2021. The day of the week we have more or less incidents of this kind of crime. Here you have the time that this incident occurs more frequently. So with this information, a decision maker can use their resource in an effective way. Another technology innovation that I'd like to show you is the dynamic panel. The previous panel was the static panel. Why it is static? The last panel, static panel, because you can make the downloads only with PDF or Excel sheet. But here in dynamic panel, you can see that you can customize what you want. You have the main kinds of crimes. For example, you have in our site, you have, as example, a site that I am the superintendent of strategy in public security. You have a site and with her citizen and police officer can use and monitor or see how the evolution of this indicator. Here you have, for example, sexual crimes, seizure of firearms, seizure of narcotics, domestic violence, ILVC, that is intentional lethal violent crimes against property, VCP, theft, and feminicide. So if you click in one of these crimes, for example, sexual crime, in this dynamic panel, you have here, you can customize the period that you want to see. Here is a BI, a business intelligence panel. Here you have the amount of crimes by years, by region. This is my state here in Brazil called Ceará, you can see if you have more color, more strong, means that you have more kinds of crime. For example, this point and this point, you can see that the red color is more stronger, so you have more sexual crimes in these two regions of my state, in Brazil. Here you have the evolution year by year by year, and month by month, and the same graph showing in a way of lines to see this evolution of this kind of crime that I use as an example. Here, the day of the week, and the time with more occurrence of this kind of crime. So you can only select the type of crime that you want in the business intelligence panel, and you can customize what kind of information you want, or by region, click in the map. So if you click on the map, so this data show to change to show only the data consent to that point that you click. For example, if I click in this region here, all this table, change the data that you have here. This is dynamic. This is why it's dynamic panel. Also, you can use maps, specific kind of maps. For example, in a technological way, it's important to have different maps to give opportunities to decision makers, give the correct action, the correct operation in the dial work. So maps, for example, you have here another kind of innovation. We have here territorial maps. So this is an example of my state. Is divided in 25 areas, small areas, to give more concentration of incidents. So this area have similarities and features. So you can aggregate this area to give a more focused combat to crimes and to prevent violence. So each region with different color here, you have a specific kind of repression against crimes. So as I told you before, for example, here in my state, Ceará, Brazil, you have 25 integrated area of public security. This is an interesting map to analyze. Or you can, for example, prepare maps, thematic maps. For example, you have here a thematic map according to density, populational density. For example, you have more inhabitants here. You have more strong color, you have more inhabitants here. So in this map, the main area you have more population, it's here. And you have white color because you don't have so much population compared with other areas where you have color in their limits. So this is a thematic map as a kind of technology that you can use to give, making and producing information in details to give more knowledge to operators of actions in public security. Another interesting thing I'd like to show you is another technology that we call here as alerts. Alerts means, for example, you can create, using the data that you have, you can create alerts when the amount of crime goes more than, for example, 10%, 12%. So when you have, for this specific example here, when we have 10% increase of EVLC, intentional violent lethal crimes, using September 2022 as example, you can see that some regions have more crimes compared with the same period in the last year. That means I'm comparing the crimes in the period of 2022 compared with a period 2021. So you can see if in this comparison day by day you have some kind of increase. In this case, you can see here some cities here. Each line of this is a city, here is a territory, here is the macro region, that color region that I showed in the previous map. Here is the city, here is the year amount of crimes, in this case, for example, homicides, in the year 2021, and here 2022. So you can see that you have some increase here, if you compare with this period. So it's an important thing to do. This alert is here for IVLC, but you can see alert for any kind of crime that you want. For example, another alert to show the operators in public security that you have some violent crime against property, or where you don't have death. If you don't have death, but have a crime against property, you can monitor and evaluate describe. For example, here the same way you have the territory, here you have the integrated area of security here. Here you have the city. Here you have the amounts of this kind of crime, VCP, the year 2021, here in this column, in the year 2022. Here's the percentile. You have increase of the crime in this specific city here. Another kind of innovation that I'd like to share with you are the hotspots or criminal spot. For me, this is one of the main points to show you. For example, here you have the map of a city called Fortaleza. It is the capital of Ceará in Brazil. And you have red color, so you have more concentrated crimes here. This is the shape of the map, any kind of this color map. In yellow, you have amounts of crime. In this case, we are analyzing IVLC, intentional violent lethal crime. So you can see the point here in red, are points where you have some kinds of violent crimes, for example, as homicide. And you can expand this and show, for example, in a more appropriate way, show the hotspots, the heat map. So here you have a micro territory where there you have the IVLC crime, and here it is the hotspot. The hotspot is here. Some points here are crimes, and there is more concentrated in these streets, in this micro territory. Here you have the day of week where you have more of this kind, the day of week. Here, the time of week that you have more lethal crime here. So it's very important. Why? Because you have the hotspot, the heat map. You have the space, the place where the crime occurs more frequently, the day of week, and the time. So if I give to police operators this information, it's very important because they can make operation strategies in the field of public security. Here you have, if you have a lot of action in a micro territory in that hotspot, this hotspot can migrate from point to another point. So here you have another technology that you can see the displacement of the hotspots. So according to the time, for example, year by year, 2012, 13, 14, 16, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. You can see the hotspot displacement in a map that you can see here. For example, this is the main place, the same place. However, you can see that the hotspot, the heat map, for example, with red color more strong, we have more crime. That some crime are migrating from this point to this point. Some hotspots are decreasing. This is good because if it's decreasing the hotspot, means that the police actions are effective. Continuing. For example, another crime fight technology. This is what can I do with the data. Now you can create automatized system, computer system to produce a lot of information in technology. For example, you use artificial intelligence, business intelligence, big data, data science, spatial statistics, geoprocessing. All of this, I will show you some technology that we develop here. This technology was developed here in the Public Security Secretariat in Ceará, Brazil, and in the Superintendent of Strategy in Public Security. So I will show you now some of this technology. For example, this is the Intelligent Video Surveillance System. It's a system to identify motor vehicles that have been used in criminal practice or that have a connection with someone in conflict with the law using interactive maps, images, icons, and various information available to user. Here you can see the screen, a big screen, and the operator can see here more than 4,000 cameras in all states of Ceará. You can see here, and the system can monitor these vehicles. Cerebro as a kind of big data, is a platform with business intelligence that integrates several databases and knowledge base to support strategic decisions on public security. So if you put a name of a person or some identification identification of a person, you can extract all information through, in this case, you have 18 bases. You can put the name, you can extract information about that person or individual offender consulting 18 bases. This is the big data set. Another technology is the technological system for territorial monitoring security units called STATUS. STATUS work on the prevention and repression of violence with focus on the space-time dimension. That means hotspot. This is the tools, automatized tools, that create the hotspot that I showed you before. The hotspot directing actions to the micro-territories that vary according to the type of crime, day of the week, and time of the day. So, it's in my opinion, it's one of the best technology that you have here to show in public security. Developed in our research and strategic superintendence. Another technology, you have record of tactical operations and security actions, ROTAs. It's a technology using an automatized system that works on monitoring and controlling all public security vehicles. The system has several functionalities, such as the presentation of the tracked vehicles and real-time visualization of each occurrence on a map, electronic fencing, and dynamic and statistical reports. So this information is to monitor the police vehicles or public security vehicles. You can see in real time where these vehicles are in each moment. Another technology that I'd like to show you is the Advanced Command Portal. It's a multifunctional advanced command and control application for mobile device such as cell phone. So the police officer can have in his hand, in a mobile, you can search, for example, about offender. You say information about personal information, about the criminal information, about the vehicle. You have the police officer have in their hands all kinds of information consulting our databases. You give mobility to police officers to work. Another technology that I'd like to show you is the Operational Georeference System, SIGO. SIGO is a system with the specialization of fire brigades units and fire hydrants, enabling the ideal routing for accidents and fire hydrants, including information on current traffic. This is a tool, this is a computer system developed to be used by fire brigade. So this is, I'm almost finished my presentation. So thank you very much. You can.
Thank you, Dr. Helena, for the wonderful presentation. We are so glad to have you as our keynote speaker. Now let's come to the next. So this is our team activity for the day. Let's proceed towards our team building activity. Sometimes we miss the opportunity of connection and linkage with fellow participants of the conference. This team activity is to encourage interaction among all the participants. So this is the topic of discussion, future of education after pandemic.
UNESCO is exploring how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet. Let's envision the futures of education. With the COVID-19 lockdowns and restrictions, we've seen that it's possible to radically shift the ways we live. People are adjusting to new realities. As we return to working, learning, and living more closely together, let's learn from this experience. In many places, we've seen cleaner air and realized that our ways of living involve real trade-offs. We've realized the extent of our vulnerabilities. The crisis is affecting people's lives and livelihoods differently, exposing the severity of inequalities. For students, teachers, and humanity, this is an important opportunity to understand that what we have considered normal is not inevitable, but is a choice, a result of our choices. What are we learning from the coronavirus disruptions? What needs to be different than before?
So I request everyone to please put some light on the topic of the discussion. So, Ma'am Cecilia, you want to add something?
Yes, well, I think the pandemics has some, well, despite very negative impact on health, of course, and economics and etc., has a positive feature that is this promoting the online conferences or the online work. And it's more easy, for instance, to associate our work with our personal lives, like the family and etc. Considering the conference, I think it's a really important opportunity for students, most from short income, because, for instance, in Portugal, students have a lot of problems to go to the conference. So this online conference could promote this participation. So I invite all the teachers and students that are listening to us to start to come to conference, start to try to speak, even if your English is not the best, because the most important is not if you are exactly speaking very nice English, but exchange information and try to communicate. So please be courage and try to participate in here because it's much more friendly, cost efficient, and it's a way also to know other people working in your areas or other areas like in this conference.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the information. So, anybody wants to share something?
Basma. Basma.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, Andy Rita, you want to share something? Please put your cameras on. I request everyone, please put your cameras on. I request everyone, please put your cameras on. Ma'am, Andy Rita, you want to share something on the topic of discussion?
No, I missed out. I have an issue with connection, so I'm struggling here with electricity.
Okay. No issue. Ma'am. Huijang, you want to share something? Huijang, please unmute your mic. Okay, Maramalati, you want to share something? Okay, let's move forward. So these are the listeners for the today's conference. Liangshan State Key Laboratory of Bioelectronic School of Biological Science and Medical Engineering, Southeast University, Nanjing, China. Shangchuan Zhang School of Biological Science and Medical Engineering, Southeast University, Nanjing, China. Hangzhou School of Biological Science and Medical Engineering, Southeast University, Nanjing, China. Huizhang School of Life and Science, Southeast University, Nanjing, China. We are so glad to have you here. Now let's welcome our first presenter for the conference, Andy Rita Ayu, Faculty of Science, University of Bua, Cameroon, and her topic is promising activity of tetrahydroisoprenolinase against multi-rock resistance clinical, salmonella isolates and cytotoxicity against monkey kidney cells. You may read her abstract from here. Let's see what she wants to share.
Greetings, everyone. I am Zibrita Ayuk, a PhD student from Buea, University of Buea, Cameroon, and I'll be presenting on the topic promising activity of tetrahydroisoquinolines against multi-drug resistant clinical isolates of Salmonella and cytotoxicity against monkey kidney cells. My supervisors are Professor Gogomo and Dr. Ngemea, all based in Faculty of Health Science in Cameroon. I have an issue with sharing the presentation because I'm actually using the slides, not the video I uploaded.
Ma'am, if you want to present live, you can also present live. You can read your presentation.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Please share your screen and please put your cameras on.
I've done so, but to move to the next slide, I don't know if they're seeing it.
No, this is stuck. You can present live. If you want to present live, you can present live.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So since as I already sent this across, I'll have an issue with moving on the slide. So I don't know how I'm going to talk about it. But then this work is part of my PhD work here back in Cameroon. And actually we have an issue with typhoid fever, that's salmonellosis. And the aim is due to the emergence of multi-drug resistance to almost all recommended antibiotic classes, we thought it wise to seek for new drugs to be able to combat this problem of resistance. And so the tetrahydroisoquinolines, they occur widely in nature. And of course, they've been used in other microbes as antiplasmodia, they have some activity, as well as against viruses, they have some activity, against tuberculosis, they have some activity. And now no work had been done on multi-drug resistant strains. So we thought it wise to use this and to try to test on multi-drug strains and see if they have activity. And now for the methods that we use the standard Zix diffusion and micro dilution assays, whereby we used at a particular concentration 50 microgram per mil on 0.5 McFarland standard bacterial suspension. And we had zone of inhibition that we measured in millimeters. And for these compounds, there were 17 of them. 2 among them stood out with a very high zone of inhibition, as stated on the paper. And others also had some moderate activity. But for the MIC, that's a microbot dilution, and we had that done to get the minimum inhibitory concentration. And with this, we had right up to 16 microgram per mil for those 2 compounds. And with this activity, we can infer that they have intrinsic activity, as well as the setup was well done. We went further to check cytotoxicity of some selected tetrahydroisoquinolines. And we found that for the 2 most active compounds, one was very cytotoxic, while the other was not. And the differences in these targets that we are trying to use to solve the problem of resistance in salmonellosis, we can infer that their differences could be due to the fact that they have presence of different substituent groups in the para position, which we infer that it increases activity, while for the others that had weak activity, probably they had lower or smaller bulky groups. And with this, we can gladly say that the tetrahydroisoquinolines have promising activity in order to search. We're doing more medicinal chemistry studies so as to be able to come up with a better anti-salmonella or antibacterial lead for this. The other part, this work has been published in the journal Scientific Africa. And the other part of this work is to be able to use some of these active compounds in combination with some commonly used antibiotics in the method of combination therapy. So the work is continuing. I've not yet finished, but this part has been published. And so I would like to thank my supervisors for this piece of work and the grace, equally the sponsors for this from the chemistry department in the University of Buea, Cameroon. I would equally like to thank Eurasia Research Conference team for giving me the opportunity to present this piece of work and to be able to learn from professors and doctors worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Andip Rita Ayuk, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. We are so glad to have you here. You want to add something?
May I?
Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Okay. Well, was a pleasure to listen to you. Can I call you Rita? For me, it's more easier. I think this online presentation sometimes has this slight bumps, these problems as the present. But don't worry, it was a very nice talk. I really enjoyed to listen to you. So you test all these compounds, but I wonder, are you synthesize it? Or are you working in collaboration with other people? Who is producing these new compounds?
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. Please put your mic on.
We're working in collaboration with the Department of Chemistry, University of Buea. So I did not synthesize them. The chemists did, and then the biology part I did to screen.
Okay. It's a big, huge problem, the resistance in bacteria. So this is an alternative mode to try to discover new compounds or associate these new compounds to the already existent antibiotics. So it was very nice to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am Andip Rita Ayuk, and thank you, ma'am Cecilia. Okay, so let's move on forward to next. So our next presenter for the today is Maram Alarti, College of Science, King Abdulaziz University, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and her topic is assessing the copy number variations in Saudi autistic children. You may read her abstract from here. Now let's see what she wants to share with us. I request Malham Ararti, please share your presentation. Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am. You are not audible, ma'am.
I have a
Are you facing internet connection issue?
okay.
Yes, please.
Let me show the poster. You can see the poster?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is visible. It is visible.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today I will talk about my project. My project was assessing copy number variation in autistic children. Autism spectrum disorder is a new developmental disorder which is characterized by difficulties in social communications and interactions along with the behavior. The huge increase in the number of the children diagnosed with autism in Saudi Arabia and around the world in 2022, according to the World Health Organization, the prevalence of the autism globally was 1 in 100 children suffering from autism. The chromosomal abnormality, which refers to the copy number variation, have been contributing in the pathogenesis of autism. More than 1% of the autism case can be analyzed via a genetic locus, whereas the ratio rise nearly 5 to 10% by copy number variation. The main objective of my study is to investigate the existence of the copy number variation in Saudi autistic children and their role in autism phenotype. This done by using array comparative genomic hybridization technique. This technique is the most effective method for detecting a copy number variation. Used microarray slides containing 1,000 of the DNA probe covering the whole human genome, which a test DNA sample and a reference DNA sample are differently labeled with the fluorescent dye. Then the software packages are used to measure and plot the fluorescent ratio between the test and reference DNA. Genomic sequence can be aligned with the extracted data. The result reveals that the most frequent copy number variation in autistic Saudi children and genes that contain may linked in one way or another to the autism. Finally, I hope this research will be helpful to the early diagnosis of the autism and the other neurodevelopmental disorder, as we all know the role of the early diagnosis in the treatment and in the reducing the severity of the autism. In conclusion, as a result of our finding, my finding, more awareness of the genetic variation in autism is needed, and it could provide a deeper understanding of a vital genome region that contribute to the development of the autism spectrum disorder. And more study are needed with the large sample size to identify a copy number variation or genes that contribute to the autism diagnosis as a biomarker. And thank you. Any question?
Yeah. May I?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it was a pleasure to listen to you. So this is a very interesting study, but because well, my high seeing is not very good, I have problems to look at your poster. Did you conduct any quantitative tests, like a statistical test, to see if the number of these kind of children with autism, with this kind of duplications in genes, was significantly higher in relation to your control group?
Yeah. And the result, the poster, you can see the table.
Oh, I have problems to try to see it well. Yeah.
The table show the most frequent copy number variation in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
There are a lot of study in Europe, in Japan, to detect a copy number variation. But in my country is low. Few study show this copy number variation. I hopeful my study it's assistant for this problem.
Are you this work is conducted under a PhD? Are you a PhD?
لا, master.
A master's degree. Oh, okay. So very nice work, madam. It was a pleasure to see your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Malha Marathi, for your wonderful presentation. We are so glad to have you here. So you want to add something? Would you like to add something? Malha Marathi, please unmute yourself. You want to add something?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Now let's move on to the next. So I would like to end this conference. And firstly, I would like to thank all the participants for the wonderful presentations and for your valuable time and patience. Now, with great pleasure and enthusiasm, I would like to conclude that the conference was a great success. Many people have contributed in different ways to turn this event into a smoothly running conference with very interesting presentations. This conference has resulted in good discussions and networking. I owe my gratitude to all the presenters and patient listeners, to coordinators and the whole staff of Eurasia Research for their constant support. I would like to thank all the university and institutes who have sponsored our participants and people who have directly and indirectly contributed in the smooth conduct of this event.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.